My guest today's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the College Football Hall of Fame, and at the University of Nebraska, he was the recipient of the Outland Trophy, awarded to the best interior lineman in college football. He's been to 12 Pro Bowls, and he was an All-Pro 7 times. Will Shields also received the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award in 2003, and most importantly of all, he speaks Danish. So I will start there and say, hi Will, hvordan går det? Og tak fordi du kan snakke med mig på Great Dane Nation.
Hey, welcome. No problem. Thanks for having me.
Går det godt? Hvordan er det med dit danske?
Det er god dag.
Det er en god dag.
Det er god dag, ja.
Du vil gerne spille golf, kan jeg forstå.
Yeah.
You want to, yeah.
I want to
you want to play. Men det er for koldt. Men det er for koldt. Det er for koldt i dag. Det er for koldt i Kansas City.
That's why I have to wear bundles. A lot of stuff. Oh.
So tell our listeners, of course, why you have a Danish connection. Because, well, I know why. Your wife is Danish.
Many moons ago, I met this lovely lady from Denmark, and we ended up married and having children, and basically loving Denmark like nobody's business, man. I actually we still talk about it all the time about how many weeks a year can we get back to spend time in Denmark, and being over there is just awesome.
What's your favorite thing about Denmark? It could be the food, the culture, or a place there. What do you like? What do you look forward to? Like, what is the first thing you're going to do when you get to Denmark?
You know, the first thing I'm going to do is
get hot dog, baby.
I'm going to get Pulse-Mix, man. Even though I am technically off of meat, I don't eat meat. But that's the one thing that I say. Hey, anytime I hit the airport in Billund, I've got to get a Pulse-Mix, Danish hot dogs with French fries, with the good ketchup.
And the fried onions and the mustard.
Yes, the fried onions are always a key. And so every time we have a meal, especially one of our special meals for Christmas or whatnot, the fried onions are coming out.
Man, it's the best. Are there any other teammates besides myself who you've been able to speak Danish to in your 14-year career in the NFL or maybe at Nebraska? Anybody you came across at all?
No, none whatsoever. Even when I try to talk to Jan, I give him a hard time, even though he's not from Denmark, but he's close.
Norwegian.
So I'm going, hey, can I? And he looks at me like, what are you doing? Stop that. But no,
it's similar.
I actually had a teammate from Denmark that actually he was Denmark. He came and played at Nebraska for a couple of years. But at that point, I was not even in the realm of thinking about speaking Danish whatsoever. So, we still talk every once in a while on Facebook. He works over. Actually, he lives in. I'm trying to think of where he lives in Denmark, because at one point he was in Germany, and then he moved from Germany to Denmark. But so I had a teammate for a while from Denmark. So
cool. Yeah, there's not a lot of us around. But as I said in my intro, you've had an unbelievable career, Will, and it's unusual, especially today, when a player is able to spend his whole career with one team, which you did with the Kansas City Chiefs, 14 years there. And so I guess I want to start with the Chiefs, because to me, when I look at the Chiefs today, it's almost like a tale of two teams. And I talked to Willie Lanier, who's a great Hall of Famer with the Chiefs, at the Hall this year, and he thought that the Chiefs were going to stink. And I kind of laughed at it. And then 7 weeks into the season, they were sitting at 3-4, and then since then they've ripped off 5 straights. But what to you, and I'm sure you follow the team, right? What was wrong with the team to start the season, and what are they doing now that they weren't doing before? Because it seems like a completely different team.
Well, you got to realize that it's the same team. It's just going through bumps and bruises. You go to the beginning of the season, you're looking at, okay, everybody has high expectations for a team that's been to the Super Bowl year after year, back to back, which is unusual for any team whatsoever. So in building your dynasty is what, everyone was talking about at one point. It's sort of like you sort of prequel something that could be very good or very disastrous. And the pressure's been put on, and you have to perform at a high level, and you're going to get everybody's best game. And I think as a team, they were playing well. But if you have a leader that actually has to pull the team along every week, week in and week out, it's exhausting. It gets tiring. It gets that point to where, how many weeks do you have the same guy that's going to pull it through? There has to be somebody different every week to make it happen in certain levels, unless they just have that, mentality. And also you got to look at it to where the first couple of games, there was a play here or play there that could have determined the game. Not saying that was the play that made the difference, but as we say, there's many plays in the game, but there was some crucial plays that could have affected it to where there wouldn't have been even a conversation of, well, the Chiefs has fallen off. They're not playing as well. They're not doing this, that, and the other. And that, I think, is just sort of the ball bounced in the wrong direction at that time. They're still the same team. I just think they're also a little more older, a little more mature, and they do have their struggles. You do have guys that are usually pulling everybody to do what they needed to do that are currently sort of getting tired and taking sort of a back seat. You see that on the defense, where you used to see the DB that was there that would pull people along and pump up the group and everything else. He went through a battle of COVID. He's still not where he wanted to be or where he wants to be right now. On the other side, you have Mahomes that's doing what he has to do. Great guy trying to pull the team along. But it's tough when you're that guy pulling everybody and getting all the stuff that you're trying to get the best out of. There's only so many few special guys that is just innate. Their mentality is that way 24/7. And as you get older, as we know, when you get older and you're more mature, and when I say more mature, you're now married, you have children, there's other life-changing things that are happening at the same time that you have to still find that balance. You've got to balance that out. And that all affects it. And I think each guy is sort of taking their time and trying to figure out where they want to go next and how they want to grow. And it affects some things on the field. You can't stay after practice for 2 hours just doing whatever you want to do. You got to get home. You got to change that, and it's changing every year. And I think most people don't realize that, there is a great team that's still playing, but there is off the field things that changes and affects how you do certain things on the field too.
Yeah. A lot of things change when you have a newborn kid who's got to get his diapers changed and fed every 2 hours throughout the night versus if you're single in Kansas City and you're rolling in the light district or down at the plaza or wherever you're doing, right? So to your point, the life balance is so important. And I thought when I played, I was with the Chiefs in 02, 03. I came into a team that was immensely talented offensively. Our defense was not as good as our offense, but what I noticed was that line, that offensive line we had with Willie Rope, with yourself, with Brian Waters, and Wickman in the middle there. A line that, I want to talk about that, but first get your opinion on the Chiefs line now. They went out and spent a lot of money on Thuney. Yeah. They were decimated in the Super Bowl. And I mean, everybody talked about, well, the offensive line let the Chiefs down in the Super Bowl. But what have they done to shore that problem up, in your opinion? Talk to me about Thuney. They paid him like $80 million. So they paid him a lot of money.
I think a lot of money. So anytime you bring somebody in and you pay them a lot of money, you expect for them to be the perfect Band-Aid to fix it. And that's not necessarily true in anybody's case. They've gotten to that point because they've performed at a certain level consistently over and over and over again to justify those dollars. But you also want a five. It's like that hand. If you can't make the fist, you can't punch. Unless you do an open hand slap, and then the fingers might fall off. You don't know how that falls.
Right.
And then when you add those pieces together, it also takes you a while to gel. And they do have two young rookies in the middle that are still learning the game, still part of the process. Yes, they're gritty, they're playing well, they're hustling, but there does come that time where you have to look at it and go, they're going to make rookie mistakes. There's going to be things that happen. There's going to be those games where they go, wow, my season in college is usually over by now, and I've still got 6 games to go or 7 games to go plus playoffs. So those are all things that you have to take into consideration. And they're doing pretty well right now. I think they're trying to do better as far as what they're working with. But I think on the other hand, there's other little nuances that you have to get used to, even down to the way each running back runs. Certain plays work differently for each guy because each guy sees something different. Even if you have a quarterback that scrambles compared to a quarterback that's dropped back and keeps dropping back, and so they have different styles. And so all of these guys have got to get used to that. Even though you can see it on film and be a part of it, it still takes you a while to gel and get used to what that person can do compared to somebody else. We all have our habits. Some guys, some quarterbacks like to roll to their right when they get out. Some like to roll to their left. But if your if your right tackle is not as strong as your left tackle, that's going to switch. You can't roll to your right if he's getting pushed back into the pocket. You got to step up sometimes. You got to change that. Or can you hold the middle long enough for him to step up into that compared to having to go from left to right or further back?
Yeah.
So those are all things that play a role in it. But then also the other hand is there's another thing called the RPO that everyone's going through, run pass option. Basically, it's almost similar as calling 2 plays in the huddle and you call one out and one, but it's on the run. And so, how do you ask your lineman to blow somebody off the ball and get to the second level when the ball could be thrown over your head at the same time? So you're sort of tentative also. So those are all part of the process.
Well, you're talking like a coach. You're actually talking like somebody who's been sitting in an offensive line room with these guys who are playing for the Chiefs right now. Have you been asked to be in that room? Have you mentored any of these guys? It sounds to me like whatever you just told me needs to be communicated in a powerful way to that crew. Is that where you're at?
You got to realize they've won a Super Bowl. They've already did the roadmap there. I haven't been invited into the room. Haven't asked
Chiefs. Hello.
Haven't asked to be in the room. But it is, there's always something that you'd love to be able to be a part of it and offer and be, a part of the group. But also, you are a fan. So you sit and you watch and you analyze and you look at all the different pieces of it. And you can see the mindset of every team and what they're going through and what they're trying to build. But it's also that process of trying to make them grow at the same time.
I would think having you as a resource right there in Kansas City would be invaluable. And I had Anthony Munoz on the show, and he talked about offensive line play today compared to when he was playing. He felt there's been a general decline in the quality of line play, and he gave me some reasons why. I want to get your take on that. Do you feel that way? And if so, in what way do you feel that it's declined?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily declined. I do know necessarily that it is harder for you to prepare a offensive lineman for what the next level holds, just because I couldn't say a lot, but quite a few linemen are being more or less converted into linemen. They're not traditional linemen. It's not a guy, I usually call it the kid that's always been a lineman since he was, 4 years old all the way up through, because I was one of those guys that's always played the line. Now we have guys that played quarterback that are now converting into linemen. We got tight ends that are converting to linemen. It's more athletic. They're trying to find the more athletic guy to put them in those positions, but they still have to go back and learn the caveat of how to block, how to do the things that need to be done, where traditional linemen have been taught that since day one. And that makes a difference. And that creates that decline. That creates that growing spurt of trying to put somebody in a position and have them grow into it. But you got to do it today. You can't wait to do it. It's got to happen right away. And so I think that's part of the process that has to grow. We have to build a true lineman academy where those guys are growing and understanding. And I know that there's one in Arizona right now. We do some training here and there when we can, but it needs to be something that's addressed so that it makes the game rise. And that's one thing I want to make sure that, every position should rise, even the offensive line. And I think right now we have a few that have done it, but there's still a room for that to improve as the game and as the rules have changed to help linemen as they progress.
Who's the best? You were considered one of the greatest guards to ever play. So when you look at the NFL today, Chiefs included, of course, who do you think is like I hate to say the best, but like one of the top tier guards in the NFL today? Everybody's talking about Quentin Nelson there in Indy, but there's a lot of names to choose from. In your mind, knowing the style that you played, and you played in let me get this straight now, 261 straight games. Is that right, Will?
Well, 231. 231. Sure.
That's an insane number, whatever it is.
231 consecutive, I know.
Come on.
We don't count our preseason games and stuff like that. So those are actual.
And I also noticed you don't.
Yeah, 230.
You don't count kickers, because I had 360 in a row with a point.
Well, see, that's interesting you say that, because the other kicker that was here, he actually took my record down about a year ago.
He wasn't a starter.
The punter.
That's
and I give him a hard time, and I go, yeah. He was like, and I actually coached his son. Yeah, I coached his son.
Oh.
And his son, we're there the day he actually broke the record, and his son's going, well, how does it feel that my dad broke your record? And I was sitting here thinking, I was like, maybe your son's a kicker. He's a punter.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, the last 4 games he punted.
Asterisks.
I was like, the last 4 games he did not punt at all. There wasn't a punt in the game, and I'm going, okay, I see it. It happens.
I hear you. Okay, I just wanted to give our listeners a little perspective. That's all.
Yeah. The guard at Indy is really good. I like what he does. Plays well. The young guard here we have at Kansas City shows a lot of promise. He shows a lot of ability. I think those two are really doing well. As being that critical guy, it's not going to be perfect. We just want them to keep playing and do what they do. And I think that's the process that each guard, each center has to learn, is that there is no perfect. There is just the percentages of getting it done. And I think that's the mentality that you have to have from that point forward. But yeah, they have a couple of great guards that are working their way through it. I do like the young guy from Indianapolis. He is playing well. But, I think this next year will be different, because I'll actually get a chance. I'll sit down and watch some actual true play and start critiquing and going through that part.
Sure.
I think I'm that time. I just turned 50, so I've got that
Happy birthday.
50-year-old itch of like, yeah, okay, now I can say that I am. I know what I'm talking about, kind of thing.
You got a 50-year-old itch, and I got a 60-year-old itch, but I'm not. It's not the itch that you want, bro.
I understand.
It's a different itch.
Yeah, I understand. But
what makes it? So what makes a good guard? Because I asked Munoz that about the tackle position. He gave me some interesting takes on what it takes to be a good tackle. Mm-hmm. But a guard is different. You're a little closer to that center and the quarterback, and
the guard itself.
A couple of non-negotiables for the.
The guard has to work in a 2x2 box. He has got to protect the inside. So we'd say 2x2. So there's 2 yards in front of the line, 2 yards behind the line, 2 yards to the right, 2 yards to the back. So when you're in pass protection, you never want to give up depth within 2 yards. If you go within 2 yards, then you're actually too close to the quarterback on any kind of play whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And we call it a cup. So a cup protection itself creates 2 yards within your box of your 2x2. Then if he's outside of your box, then you can go 3, 4, 6, and 8, because they're going further away from the quarterback and then start coming to the quarterback. So your job is to hold the depth of the pocket so that the quarterback can step back up in, can get those things done. And you're also labeled to be able to help both the guard, both the tackle and the center in any given play. But also you're just like that cup that's built backwards. You're also privy to make that cup going forward as you move forward to gain yards. So any run play, you should be working toward that goal of being able to create that 2 yards of separation to gain 2 yards in that same direction. So it sort of gives you that box of understanding of anything within that 2x2. You have to protect it, you have to move it, you have to create it. And you don't have to necessarily move them 5 yards. If you give the 2, then you always win for 3 or 4. Even if the running back comes and falls on your back and you fall forward, he'll help you get an extra yard.
Very interesting. Here's an offensive lineman trying to explain to a kicker what specifically has to happen for a successful guard play. Our listeners must be scratching their head, going, "This is pretty ridiculous."
Yeah. And I also tell anybody that's playing those positions that you have to be able to separate your hands from your feet.
What do you mean?
So your hands and everything else will get slapped, hit, punched, and basically disconnected. So a guy can grab both of your hands up here, and they can't hear me, but they grab them up high and they push them up high. If they grab your hands and pull them down low, your head will automatically fall down. So you now have to figure out a way to separate your hands from your feet, because when I grab your outside hand, you're automatically, that outside foot dies. It stopped moving because it's stopping to brace itself. So you have to teach yourself how to keep that foot moving, even if your hands are getting grabbed or getting hit or getting slapped or getting punched. And so that's why your recovery works so well if you can separate your hands from your feet. So we teach boxing techniques. We teach how to slap your hands, and if they're getting slapped, how to be what we call hard and yet soft hands. And we do that by saying, if you hit my hand, I can choose if I'm going to let it fall down or if I'm just going to flex at the wrist to make you think it's going down so I can punch you. And so we call it
I remember. Go ahead. You call it what?
Yeah, you remember we used to do that old Miyagi-Do. We call it the Miyagi-Do, wax on, wax off.
You were out there in pregame. You were there in practice doing it. I was like, okay, there's a method to this madness.
Yeah, and most people thought I was pretty crazy, and that's why I go out and do my footwork and my hands and everything else. Because anytime you get your hands slapped down, your head usually follows and your upper body falls down. And so that's called being top heavy. And so you also got to keep your balance and head up above the horizon. So anytime you look at the ground, you automatically go to the ground. And so if you can keep your head up, we call it above the fence, your eyes above the fence, then you can always redirect your body backwards and squat.
I love that. Yeah, you were crazy to the tune of 12 Pro Bowls. That's how crazy you were, Will. You know, we can drop at this point. If you had a mic, just go ahead and drop that. You know. So, okay, looking at the Chiefs roster today, are they going to repeat as AFC champions? Are they going to win another Super Bowl? Are they good enough? Are they playing well enough? Where are they in your head as far as there's certainly one of 3 teams in the AFC right now that are playing the best.
They're good enough to go deep into the playoffs. I think once you see the offense turn over to where they could be, they could make a run at the championship again. I think right now the defense has been playing their tail off to keep them in games and to play close, as the offense is sort of still now trying to refine that little magic piece, that rekindling piece. And I think, and you can tell the difference if you look at guys of, are they having fun anymore? It's hard because when you're having fun and you don't know how good you are, you can keep striving with that funness because you're going, wow, man, we're doing this. Man, you're surprising yourself. But once you start looking at it and saying, man, I'm that good, it's different, because that's when you stop doing the little things that you did to get there. You stop making up the new things to keep separating yourselves from the crowd. And that comes from the part of having fun together on the game, doing things and seeing things and being able to talk about it on the sidelines and fix it. I noticed that was one thing that was really big for the longest time of, you come over to the sideline and they talk about it and they try to fix it and they do those things. They've got to get back to the basics. They got to get back to those things and go back to go, well, you still have something to prove because you did change the words. It wasn't our words that were put in their mouths.
Yes.
The Super Bowl champs. Now we're going to start building a destiny or, dynasty.
Very dangerous, right? Very dangerous when you start talking dynasty.
When you start saying those words and pulling those things out, now everybody's looking around like, oh, really? Well, the last team that tried it, everybody wanted to knock them off. Everybody wanted to beat up on them. Everybody wanted to win because they can always say they derailed this team before they got to that point to consider themselves, being a dynasty or what have you. There's still years that you look at it when we were playing across the road. It was like, man, what did we do wrong? We beat every team that won a Super Bowl. We beat them at least once or twice a year.
Yeah.
And yet, when the bullets were flying and you're getting down to that playoff run, we could never push through that. We could never get over that. And I think some of that comes back if you look at teams and what they do. What is your goal to win? When you say, hey, our goal is to win every Super Bowl, that's a high goal and high expectation. Does everybody have that every year? Some teams are going, man, I just want to finish 800. And if they are 500, they finish 500, they sigh of relief and nothing else happens. Other teams go, oh, if you do these three things, you'll be in the playoffs at this time. But is that your goal in mind, just to get in the playoffs, or is it to win a Super Bowl? You get paid the talent of getting into the Super Bowl. So when you get to that point where you're going, oh, well, we made this part of our goal, then you get that sigh of relief. That sigh of relief was enough for you to lose what you've had.
Yep. It is a very valid point you're making. Dynasty, another word for dynasty might be target. You got to get big bullseye right there, and everybody's gunning for you. And it's a mindset, to your point about, and you're making a very good point that I just want to expand on it a smidge. I remember being on a lot of teams, and we would be, oh man, let's get a wild card. Let's get in the playoffs. Let's get a playoff check. You know what I mean? And it's been a success, almost from the coaches too. There were very few teams I was on when at the beginning of the year, the head coach stood up by that whiteboard. He said, he said by the board and said, our goal is to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. I didn't hear that. I heard a lot about, we got to win the quarter. We got to win more games in this. We got to win 3 out of 4. You know what I mean? And breaking it down that way. Very seldomly, and to your point, did I ever hear, so it's a perception thing. What are we settling for here?
Well, and that's where when Vermeil walked in the room, and at first me and Vermeil didn't get along at all. I was like, yeah, okay.
Why? Why did you?
Well, at that point, they were trying to find a quarterback for the team, and Gerbach was here, I believe, at that point, and they were trying to figure out if he's going to be the future or not. And so they were going to have Gerbach. My contract was up, and so they were going to, hey, I can't get a guard. I can't pay a guard what you want to be paid and keep my quarterback. So it was sort of like that, punch in the face of like, man, I've been here longer than this guy, but you got to keep this guy and get rid of me, that kind of thing. But it was business. And to me, that was that other piece of it, of understanding that it is a business. So sometimes people go, well, why did this guy do this and this do that? And this said it's business. It's part of the process of what you're in.
Yeah.
And so, you take it as, why me and not this person and that kind of thing. But it ended up to where, Gerbach ended up leaving, and I ended up getting franchised in here. And it worked out for the best, because when he walked in the room, his goal was to tell you, I've been to 2 Super Bowls. I've won one and lost one. I have a roadmap of how to get there. And this is what we're going to do to get back. And he showed the videos and showed, this is the offense we're going to put in. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to do it just like them, or even better if we can. And he put that belief in you of, man, we can go out there and do this, because he would compare, hey, this guy is just like that guy. This guy is faster than this guy. And he would go down and break it down to that point of where you couldn't help but believe that every time you touched the field, you could score points. And that's what set the tone for us at that time, in that juncture, to put a unbelievable offense together on that side.
We were a powerful. We scored more points. We ran off, 11 wins in a row, 10 wins in a row. I remember just my first game was a game winner in overtime in Cleveland. Yeah. Remember the game with no time on the clock? When the guy threw the helmet and John had another play. It was an untimed play at the end.
Rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling.
It was an insane game. And I totally believed, and we won a ton of games. But then we got to the playoffs, Will. Yeah. And the Colts came in there. And what happened, in your opinion, on that deal?
There was a lot of things. We practiced hard that week, and we basically went after it like we were going back to training camp, and we felt as a group, as we were ready to win that game and ready to play well in that game. Of course, that was a game that was there no punts in the game, or maybe one punt in the game. It was more or less a shootout of whomever had the ball first, just like anything else, just like the earlier games. Yeah. There was a couple of plays in there where what they call Tony for a push off on the touchdown catch in the end zone.
I think I missed the field goal, actually.
So there was all those little things that happened in that game. I think there was only one fumble in that game, and I think that was I think Priest was fighting for extra yards. I mean, those little things, and most people don't realize those little things make a big difference in the game, and that's part of that process, that part of that learning, part of that growth.
Yes,
man, we're right on edge. And then I think that was the year they went and won their Super Bowl. And it was like either us or them who would have had an opportunity to pull it off and do what we needed to do. And that was one of those heartbreaking moments and part of the process, but it still was a heartbreaking moment.
Talk to me about the line that you guys had, because it was dominant and Priest ran behind it, and you also had Larry Johnson, of course, and you had a bunch of 1,000-yard rushers. But talk to me about that camaraderie between Willie, who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame with you, Brian Waters, Wickman, across the line, and why did that work so well?
I think it was the funniest thing ever to look at it, all the different characters on those lines.
You're right. You're right.
From left to right.
Yeah.
All different mentalities, all different way everybody had their processes and what they did. Yeah. But when we went out and played, man, we had fun while we did it. And to me, that was fun. That was awesome. I mean, it was to a point to where we could pick and choose who would do what on specific plays to make it work.
Give me an example.
So we had a play called Truck where Willie, if he was going left, Willie would pull, and then sometimes Brian would pull, and then sometimes Casey and Willie would pull, and then sometimes Willie and I would pull. So on one play, we could figure out who was going to go, who wasn't going to go, and also make the down blocks and all the pin blocks and all the other stuff. And that's what made it cool. And that we got to a point to where it was a grunt or a yeah, no.
Wow.
Just those little things that we would just, you wouldn't have to say the full call of what we needed to do. And we would look at it, and it's just amazing. It was just fun. It was so much fun because we could pick and choose what we wanted to do, when we wanted to do it. And it also depends on, I'm a little sore today. So on this play, that play, and this play, I'm going to have you run, and I'm going to do the down blocking, or this person. So you can protect each other too. And that's what made it fun, because we worked as a unit when we hit the field. That's for sure.
What a great name for a play, Truck.
Yeah.
Come on, that just sounds like an offensive line play or call, if you will. That's it.
Well, and you hear that word truck, hey, it's a run play, and the big boys get after it. It doesn't have anything else to do with it. It's about, hey, we're bringing a Brinks truck around the corner, and somebody's going to have to stop it before the running back gets there.
I love that. I love that so much. I would be remiss if I didn't speak to you just briefly about the Cornhuskers. You're on their all-century team. Your jersey is retired. I think you're one of 16 guys there who has had his jersey retired by the Nebraska Cornhuskers, but they've had a rough go at it lately. Where do you see that program heading? Where is it right now? What are they missing? What's your feeling about your alma mater?
First, before as we get started here on Nebraska, I want to say, to the Tingelhoff family, and he is,
yes.
Mick, man, we went in the same class. I didn't know that he was as great as he was when I went to Nebraska until we went in as Hall of Famers together.
Yes.
Guy that played 18 years in the league, never missed a game, played for the Purple People Eaters.
Yes.
Want to say, blessings to his family, because we know that, where he's going to be missed this year.
Yes.
But Nebraska, the Cornhuskers, they're on the verge of doing things better. They're playing hard. It's going to be tough. I mean, it's part of the process. It just depends on how balanced that people are going to be. And sometimes that makes hard decisions. You got to make changes here and there. Because if not, everything stays the same. And I, hopefully they're moving in the right direction and doing some good things. They did hire Trev Alberts, which was a teammate of mine, as the new AD. So good luck to you, Trev, as they start moving forward. I can wish out good luck to those guys of what they're doing.
Sure.
But, on the other hand, I think they're doing some things that are really well, and it's going to be changed the landscape of the college sports anyway because of all the movement, all the kids that are able to go in the portal, all the coaches that are moving from place to place, a little bit of shakeup here with people changing conferences and how fast or how long that would happen. And I think once all of that settles a little bit, that it'll still be better. And I think, right now, the Huskers are fighting their way to try to get as best they can be. I mean, they've lost more games by less than 7 points than anyone else since 2006, something like that, something crazy. So they're on the cusp. They just need to, get some little discipline things down, and I think they'll be right where they want to be here in a couple of years.
Am I imagining this where the Cornhuskers, like the tradition of the walk-on and the red shirt, where they love to promote from within? That culture of the underdog and bringing them along and giving them an opportunity created this hunger to me when I thought about Nebraska. And Nebraska was Nebraska when you played there. There's something missing. There's something amiss. Well, and for me, that red shirt mentality, that underdog mentality of promoting from within, is that accurate, Will? Am I?
Well, I know when I was in school there was an unbelievable freshman, sophomore program that built from within. It was always that next person in line mentality. If you actually jump somebody, they were like, wow, how did you do that? Because this guy has been here. He's been in the system. He's been working his way through it. And that's what they prided them. That's what we prided ourselves on as being Huskers. Yeah. I think that's changed. I think that's because of the scope of the league has changed across the board to where it is hey, if I can play now and play over there, I'm not going to wait a couple of years. I mean, there's very few programs that have that guy that's been waiting in the wings for, 2 or 3 years. And then next thing you know, oh, well, it's my turn next kind of thing. Yeah. And that's just sort of the way the game goes right now across the board. Of trying to find those kids that are willing to accept, hey, I might not be a starter this year, but next year I'm hoping that the team is mine. Sure. But then on the other hand, you do have that recruiting element of who are they looking at to bring in to try to jump where I'm at now. And so that's where you have to sort of have that mentality if you can go somewhere else and play. And I can see both sides of it. But yeah, we did have that at one point. And then right after I left is when they went on their tear of winning all the championships back to back. And so we're sort of that in-between gap. I said we were the one that beat up all the kids that figured out how to win championships.
Yes.
But, that's sort of where you see it as is we still were part of that growing pain of getting there, of having those guys to see how you do that and how you practice, how, if your practices are harder than the games, then you're prepared. You're doing what you needed to do. And to me, that's where we sort of were at certain points within our years.
Talk to me briefly as we wrap everything up here about your Will to Succeed Foundation. I know you're heavily involved in the community. You have been for a long time, and good work that you're doing, Will. But let me give you a few moments to talk to everybody about your Will to Succeed Foundation.
Yeah, the Will to Succeed Foundation is still going strong. We're still working in Kansas City, and actually we do some things in Nebraska market. We originally started to work with battered and abused women and children, but we also work with about 50 different organizations, from reading programs to educational programs. And right now we're currently working on a new 501c3 to help eliminate the social economic gap through the tech field. And Great. So we're trying to find that we're going to find our diamonds out there and get them up speed so that they can basically change their socioeconomic growth from one year to the next. And so within, it's a pretty cool program. And, I love being a part of this and being able to do different things and being able to work off of different boards and to give my time.
Yes.
That's the most important piece of just, being able to be a part of it and to be able to help out a community.
Yeah, I actually remember Jennifer and I, my wife and I, when we were with the Chiefs in 0203, we did several visits with you and in connection with your Will to Succeed Foundation at a women's shelter right there in Kansas City. It was very gratifying, and to hang out there, go on our day off and spend some time with the mothers, their kids, and just hear their stories and lend support. And yeah, it's great, and I look forward to seeing and hearing more about your latest initiative on that.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys giving your time. That's what made it easy. You just tell your teammates, "Hey, we're having an event," and when they show up,
great.
it brings everybody out in droves and helps.
You bet. Finally, a few names I'm going to throw at you. Whatever comes to mind when I say the name, feel free to share a word or a sentence. It can be brief, doesn't have to be very long. Okay. I'm going to start with Lamar Hunt.
Lamar Hunt, unbelievable business person that, used to surprise me every time I got a chance to meet him. Would know me, ask about my kids, would ask about different things that you didn't think he would really remember or know from. Really a genuine leader.
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana, cool Joe. He's one of those guys that taught you sort of how to be a pro and what it looked like to see a guy that knew it all and could do a lot of different things and basically impressed you in practice, even in year 15.
Yeah, it was at his tail end of his career, and you thought, well, he's never leaving the 49ers, and sure enough. And the same with Marcus Allen. You thought he's never leaving the Raiders, and here he is. So talk to me about Marcus Allen.
Marcus actually taught us how to be a pro, how to study film, how to actually talk to running backs, that you're okay to break out of that room, talk to the running back and tell him what you can do to help him be better. And he wanted to be that guy in the room learning. So he actually taught us how to break down film and how to walk through different things. And he would actually ask us, hey, what can you do with that guy? Hey, what can you do with this guy? Heck, put the footprint on that communication between running back and lineman.
Can you give me an example of what Marcus Allen might have specifically asked you to do for him so he was become a better running back?
Well, he would come into our meeting room. He'd say, hey, we're gonna go in, we're gonna study film, and we'll watch the team we're gonna play before. And me as a rookie, I'm sitting here just, watching film. Okay, this guy's doing this, we're running that play. No, Marcus would go, hey, Will, I want to know on this play, what can we do with this guy? What can we do with that guy? How do you see your footwork of you getting to the next level on this so that I can set what I want to do off of what you're going to do?
That's interesting.
And I think that's sort of where we, I don't know where he got his nickname Cuddy from, but that's sort of where he knew his cuts of where he was going to go before, it even set up. And everybody's like, well, how did he do that? And how smooth was that? He's like, he's already planned it out in his head, and he's talked to us about what you would do with that guy and how you would do it so that he could already have a premonition of, oh, well, he's going to do this, this, and this. Why not be 3 steps ahead? Because he knows what I'm trying to do and help me look good in the process.
That's that anticipatory management.
Yeah.
Where you're thinking ahead of it. And I always felt like you did that as well. So I got to ask you about the late, great Derrick Thomas.
Yeah, DT. Oh, man, DT was a ball of energy. He definitely, brought what he was going to do onto the field. Wasn't the greatest practice player in the world, but I tell you one thing. When he decided to show you what he could do in practice, when somebody challenged him, he could just, we had a practice of River Falls one day, and he's going against a D tackle. He's got like 3 reps against him, and he goes, hey, Will, watch what I do. This is what I call A. And then he runs, straight up the field, and he goes, Will, this is B. And then he goes up the field and sort of stops and messes around. He was like, yeah, this time I'm just going to get rid of him. This is D. I'm going to skip over C. He had so many moves on this guy and left him clean and came underneath so clean. And I was like, wow. I mean, that's when a guy that really knows his craft and understands everything. He's seen it. He saw, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But when you can call your shot, that's what it is. A guy that's, worked himself into that point now, and he would do things off the field when you didn't see him working. Where practice was like, oh yeah, this is just for me getting down what the coaches want me to do. But he would work hard during the off season. I could see him out there doing stuff when no one else is looking.
Yeah, He was a phenom. He was special dude and gone way too soon.
And the great thing is, he sort of set the tone for everyone doing foundation work and working in the community and all of that. I mean, when I showed up, there was 18 guys that had foundations already built. And so I saw those guys and said, hey, I want to be like them. I want to be one of those guys that, has that foundation set, stability set, and set the tone for what you wanted to try to be.
Trent Green was a great quarterback, an underdog in many ways, threw for 4,000 yards several times with you as his right guard. So talk to me about Trent.
Man, 10 is an amazing guy. Trent is awesome, man. He's one of those guys that, you never see him complain. He just sort of fights his way through everything. When he came in the huddle, he would calm everything out. His ability to get done what needs to be done is amazing. When you saw how that break happened in his leg, hey, will he ever come back from it? Ooh. But then for him to come to us and for us to get those years out of him is amazing. And, he is the most genuine guy that I think, one of the most genuine guys I've ever met. And, 10 can call me anytime and I'll be there for whatever he needs because that's what kind of guy he is and what kind of family guy he is.
Yeah, amen to that. Tony Gonzalez, T-Gun, what a special guy he was.
Yeah, man. 88 is awesome, man. He is he's one of those guys that basically sort of kept to himself and his group. But he worked so hard. He was a worker bee that basically put in the time, put in the hours, and wasn't afraid, didn't care who watched him while he did it. And I think that's one thing that was really cool about him is that he didn't, hey, I'm going to go out and run. I'm going to go out and do these. I'm going to run these routes. I'm going to do everything else. Just a great teammate to have. And, that guy, he was that guy you knew, get in the red zone, just throw it somewhere near him and he's going to make it happen. Just unbelievable teammates.
Priest Holmes?
Priest Holmes, man, the quiet one, man. He was so quiet for the longest time. Barely said like 10 words to me, it felt like in the years that he was there. But he always had a mission and a goal in his mind. And that's, one day I actually walked up and said, Priest, man, why do you run the way you run? Why do you do that? And he goes, well, first I still got to prove myself every day. But the other thing, I'm trying to find out how fast can we get in the playoffs so we can get ready to try to win a Super Bowl. He goes, that's why I run the way I run.
Like that makes sense. Finally, I want to hear you on the late, great Marty Schottenheimer.
Yeah, Coach Schottenheimer, man. He's the guy that they ended up giving me an opportunity. I still hear his speeches day to day. I still sometimes tell people the mantras of what he.
What is his mantra? What was his mantra, Will? What was his speech like?
His speech would come in and he would tell you got to win the games you're supposed to win, keep losing teams losing, and win games at home. If you do those three things, you'll always be in the right position when it comes down to being able to make a run for it in the playoffs.
That is wisdom.
And so it's one of those unique things that he put together. And, those were those things that you would just remember, those little caveats, because every year you would hear it and you would be like, yeah, these are the things we've got to do. They come to Arrowhead, we're going to make it tough on them. They're teams that's been losing. We got to make sure we put it back in their mind that they should lose against us. And so those are the little unique things that every coach have brought as they go through. But, you appreciate them giving you an opportunity to play, because at that point, being in that third round and him calling you on the phone and saying, hey, we're about to draft you here, you don't know what to expect. But then when you walk in the door and you go, well, we're a smash mouth football team that's going to run the ball. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. You were like, oh man, this is right up my alley. We're going to brimstone and fire, man. We're going to go through the brick wall and get it done.
It's hard to believe that an Outland Trophy winner fell all the way to the third round, but you did. But you made the most out of it. You certainly did.
I think it was one of the great things about it. I'm glad I went in the third round. Before, when it first happened, you were mad, you were pissed off, you were saying, I should be a first rounder, I should be this, I should be that.
Yeah.
But I think it put a better chip on my shoulder. It put a better mantra in my mind of you still have to prove yourself, regardless if you're a first, second, or third rounder. But when you're a third rounder and you think highly of yourself, or sometimes too highly of yourself, at least get you to that mindset of, oh, okay, I have to work harder, be harder, do harder, but I'm going to prove what I want to prove from that point forward.
Yeah, your agent was Kevin Warren, who's now the Big Ten commissioner. I'm trying to get him on Great Dane Nation. Maybe you can help me out, Will. I don't know. Do you have any relationship with Kevin anymore, and how?
Yeah, I have a little relationship with Kevin and Greta and the family. We talk once a year, sometimes twice a year when we see each other. That's, at that point, I actually had two agents. I had him and Joe Lenta. So those were my two guys.
I remember Joe Lenta, sure.
Yep. So those are my two guys, man. They're awesome. Yeah, it's great to see that they're both doing so well and still helping young people out, regardless of what it is. One in the college level and one taking college guys to pro.
Yeah, and so have you. You are helping and passing it forward. I'm proud of you, Will. I'm proud to call you a Pro Football Hall of Fame brother and former teammate. Well, once a teammate, always a teammate.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your time on Great Dane Nation, Will. All the best, and I'll see you soon, I hope.
All right, see you soon. Have a
good day.
Good day.
Tack for snakken.
Det var så lidt.